All I'd ever wanted as a child was to be a great fighter. Much of that wish had been built out of a need for attention, but only now, far in retrospect, do I understand that. My own parents never paid me much mind. They'd been true soulmates, so I couldn't say it was a surprise when one passed, not a year after the other. It was all too fitting. Honestly, I don't think I could ever say I knew them before they died. As a child, I couldn't imagine any way of standing out that could be as simple as becoming a great swordsman. Just swing the blade hard, and you win, right? I'd been foolish enough to believe that as a child. Either way, thanks to my resolve, I was chosen at a young age to become a trainee to the greatest force Lithine had ever seen, the Eclipse. My people weren't plentiful, so what we lost with numbers, we made up for with skill. Eclipse were trained and armed to the teeth, so that they could act as unstoppable peacekeepers. As a trainee, I'd had the privilege of training under full-fledged members of the Eclipse. In particular, I had the honor of meeting a man by the name of Ninero. He had just become a full-fledged Eclipse. Prior to my meeting him, he took note of how I trained from dawn to dusk, and one day, he told me something that shocked me. Training can only get you so far. That sounded like blasphemy. Did he think training wouldn't do me any good? Did he think I lacked talent? Master, I'd said, a little frightened. What do you mean? Just what I said. Training will only get you so far. There's more than one way to get good at fighting. That made no sense to me at the time, and I hadn't been afraid to say so. Master, I don't understand. In return, he gave me a pat on the shoulder and kind eyes. Use your head, he'd said. The more you use it, the more you'll grow. Doing all the boring things, not the exciting things, is what'll make you great. Young me couldn't understand the meaning of it all, so I stopped training from dawn to dusk and spent more time thinking. I was determined to solve his riddle. On days I had no responsibilities, I would literally think from dawn to dusk. Now, one day, I got to fight youth older than myself. Needless to say, I got thrashed, as expected of a boy fighting young men. Only Teo got the one up on the older ones. Nobody spoke ill of me, naturally, except Teo. Go figure. And yet, I was still livid. Failure wasn't tolerated in my veins, no matter how bound it was to happen. If there was so much as a glimmer of hope, then I held to that hope. Afterward the day, my younger self went back to training from dawn to dusk. And then, Ninero returned to me. Use your head, he said. I did my best, not to be disrespectful, but still made my confusion clear. You should only say what you mean, Master, I said. I mean exactly what I said. Use your head. A few days after, us trainees were studying together. Coming across something I did not understand, I turned to my right. Teophone, I said. What does that mean? I don't understand. Use your head? Those words put me in a daze. Use my head? He looked at me like I was a dolt, but at the time, I didn't care. Yes, he said, now mocking me. You know, be smart. It was then that the stars aligned. Had Ninero meant the same thing in regards to my fighting? Had he wanted me to use my head and to be smarter, instead of just training from dawn to dusk? There was no way to know, but I didn't have anything else to go off of. I spent more time reading than anyone over the next few years. More time going over boring things like how my form was, and more time going to the older ones for any wisdom they could impart. Everything I learned fell onto the table when I fought. My gift for foresight, for spotting patterns, for game planning in an instant led to an unpredictableness nobody could handle. When next, the masters of the Eclipse pitted me against those above my age, I was the one doing the thrashing. I continued to unite power and wisdom as one, and together, they never failed to accomplish my goals. All of those events led me to the present day, so many years later. It was quite humorous how my people were no part of the world of Lethine, prided themselves on that actually, and yet still held its yearlies in high esteem. Due to that, Teofun, I, and many others had ended up petitioning to our king for something unheard of. A trip to the nation of Sohal to try our hands at the yearlies. Our king cracked, eventually, and so is how it all started. Now, you already know that I would go on to win the first yearly I ever fought in. There were 13 held each year. We, the Eclipse, were intent on making the yearly run, as it was called. This meant we would follow a specific route that would allow us to make as many of the 13 as possible. We'd be able to attend 9. We had just arrived at the town of our second yearly the night before its start date. A hand ran across my shoulder the morning of the second yearly. Lethadel, Lethadel. So said its owner. To think you have a chance to win another yearly, and you're sleeping in? Wake up! Yes, Lethadel was my true name. Lethadel Unduli. I brushed off Nynero's hand. I had something to say about fighting. I slurred out, still half asleep. Now that you mention it. Lying to him felt like putting a knife in my own chest. I slumped upright to see an odd look running off Nynero's face. You all right, Lethadel? He asked. He'd always been quick to catch on to me. I guess that was the role of an older brother. I shook my head and worked up a smile. Of course I am, I said. I only want to avoid fighting, is all. I think it suits me better to learn and observe. Good. I heard Teofun snarl. Now's my chance to win one. Teofun was my greatest victim at tournaments back home. He, no doubt, was the second best fighter we had. His first yearly had been quite impressive, and barring a double run-in with Sohal's greatest fighter, a man by the name of Jerthian, I might have had to fight him in finals. Teo and Jerthian ended up splitting their 2 sets. Well, then, Nynero said, cross-armed, giving me eyes like a father does to their lying child. That doesn't sound like a full story. I don't want to risk injury, I said. You worry too much. He hadn't bought a word I'd said. I could tell because his firm eyes hadn't wavered. So be it, he said, relenting anyways, trusting in me. Do what you feel is best. Everyone in the room soon left, leaving me all alone. In truth, fear of injury had nothing to do with my decision not to fight. The real cause had been my lack of will. My inner flame had gone out after I'd won the first yearly, and I'd had no clue why, because nothing like that had ever happened before. Maybe winning a yearly was never going to live up to what I dreamed of. I didn't even want to so much as attend today's yearly, so instead, my feet took me to the streets. My stomach was demanding food. Merchants were lined up all over, so I wagered it wouldn't be hard to find something good. It took just a few minutes, however, for my appetite to go missing. There were so many starving men sprawled out waiting to die. It hurt me. The thought of having no one or nothing to fall back on. Maybe I couldn't truly be there for any of these people, but if I could buy them something to eat, give them a few words of encouragement, maybe, just maybe, then they'd be able to find their ways. My heart took precedence over my head. I went to a merchant selling bread, bought him out, and then started to spread the bounty to all the homeless. They flocked around me, praised me, and kissed the very ground I stood on. "My lord," said one man, "please, we must know your name. We must know who to praise." I chuckled, shook my head. I didn't like to think about myself much. I was long past the days of needing attention. "I am no such one who deserves praise," I said. "But we must offer you something," someone else cried. "What else can we offer you if not praise?" To which I said, "You owe me nothing, worry not." In due time, though, I just couldn't put up with the questioning any longer because it was endless. "Please give us your name, Lord," many said. To which I at last replied, "If you really do want something to cling to, then cling to this. I come in the name of the Eclipse." Honestly, it just felt good to me. Giving, being generous. That in itself was enough reward. All the homeless ones gave me a last round of thanks before passing on each their way. With them all gone, the street was now as good as empty. People had been keeping far from the road during the good while it was littered with the needy. No more than a lone man came all the way out to see me. "You sure know how to make a scene?" he said. Honestly, I couldn't tell whether he was commending me or speaking ill of me. I raised him and I was ready to back him down. "Yes?" I said, my tone a little cautious. "I suppose I do." "It's good to see," he said. I sighed relievedly as he kept on talking. "You don't seem like someone from around here," he said. My head shook. "This is my first time in Sohal. I am only here for the yearlies." I tilted my head around, gave a look at all the homeless people fading into the distance. "Could you answer a question for me, then?" He shrugged. "What kind of place is Sohal?" I asked him. "What is it like to live here?" The man did some sort of coughing growl to let me know I wouldn't like the answer. Commoners go hungry, while nobles rest in silk. He told me, corruption is as rampant as it's ever been. There, quite honestly, was no such thing as corruption where I came from. I knew I was going to sound naive, but I really didn't care. What doesn't the king stamp out corruption? I asked. I just couldn't fathom why Sohal had these sorts of issues. Old King Nermos is too busy trying to kill talk of civil war. I really take it you know nothing of Sohal, the man said. You are correct. The man smiled at that. A real kid, a good soul, he muttered. It felt weird to be quoting St. Siglis on instinct, but I just went with it. I believe a kind heart can outlast anything, I told him. He couldn't help but smile, even if his smile was short-lived. The world here isn't all sunshine and rainbows, he said. Don't let it change you, all right, kid? I nodded. He nodded back. And then he turned away to leave, or he intended to, at least. He only got a step off before stopping. Hey, kid. Yes, sir. You making the yearly run? Of course. He stopped sugarcoating his tone entirely. It was odd how dark his voice became. Was this an omen? My one chance to turn back? This region is under Prefect Vaveo and Governor Agatha, he said. It's known as Narrow's Fist, but once you go to yearly number 5, you'll fall out of the area. If you think this place is bad, wait until you see the rest of Sohal. That stirred up my spirit, and all the darkness trying to clutch at my soul. I did my best to keep it all down. I took a moment to look towards the heavens and vowed to never change for ill. Anyways, there was some bread left over, so I went ahead, ate, and made my way back to the inn I'd been staying at. Only after a quick nap did I finally go to the arena, albeit begrudgingly. I had to go, right? It would sure look strange if I didn't go, given how vocal I'd been about coming to Sohal. Finding the others was no difficult task, nor was finding a seat, because Nainero had saved one for me. Get sidetracked? He asked, giving me keen eyes. I avoided his eyes. They'd see right through me. No doubts about it. I caught up on sleep. I said, a little sleep goes a long way, don't you think? As if my words were gibberish, he backed off and fell to thought. Don't think I've ever heard you say that before, he said. Yes. It was out of character, what I'd said. You know, he replied, I think this is a good change of pace for you. Might just be me overthinking, then. But are you good, Lithodo? Just a week ago, you were insistent on winning multiple yearlies. Where'd all that go? All pales in comparison to Moon Floor, I told him, a spirit of lies turning my mouth into its temple. I only think I should do everything I can to prepare for that moment. He hadn't fully bought what I'd said, but all the same, he went along with my words yet again. Then keep doing whatever it is you're doing, he said, slapping me on the back. If you feel that's what you need to do, I won't doubt you. Yes, that afternoon came to a peaceful close, with the exception of when Teofun got knocked out. Like usual, he started screaming a barrage of swears in our native tongue, and then obliterated his sparring blade. Some of the men went back later for the pieces and put them under Teo's pillow just to mess with him. When we got back to the inn after dinner, the nap I'd taken took its toll. I couldn't sleep. This led me to go out on a walk, and there, fate would hit me.